For 20 years, Mehera survived without the physical presence of her beloved Lord. Yet his remembrance was alive and, instead of fading, grew stronger. Every morning when she woke, every meal she ate, every time she took a bath, drank a cup of tea, heard a song, laughed at a joke, practically every moment for 20 years, Mehera remembered her beloved Mir Baba. Even toward the end of her life, her love and remembrance were just as intense as they were soon after Baba dropped his body. As one pilgrim was leaving for America in 1989, Mehera said with tears in her eyes, "I still can't believe Baba is not with us physically." Even after 20 years, it was difficult for her to accept that Baba was not in his room or in Mandali Hall. Goher observed that often at 11 p.m., Mehera would be standing, talking to Baba in his room or talking to his photographs. Sleep didn't mean much to her, is a quote from Goher. Meru often tried to cajole Mehera into going to bed earlier. Mehera felt the hours in the day that she spent remembering Baba were not sufficient. She kept awake as long as possible in the night after everyone was asleep to think of him, often going to bed in the early hours of the morning, and sometimes at 5 in the morning, when we used to start waking up. When we tried to dissuade her, Mehera would say, "But when can I think of Baba and be with him?" And this, after spending the entire morning with the pilgrims talking of Baba. I could not help remonstrating with her. I knew how much she needed her sleep. When she finally fell into a deep sleep, it was so difficult to face the task of awakening her. But time stops for no one, and she needed to be up for the next day and the next. About 6 months or a year before Mehera passed away, she and Mani were in Baba's room when Mehera became upset with Mani over something she felt Mani was not doing correctly. Mani explained, "Because of our closeness, there have been clashes, there has been friction. There's bound to be with someone who is like a sister, someone you're very close to." In Baba's room, Mehera said, "Mani, I know we've had this long way back connection, but let's finish it off in this life, okay? Not in the next one." Mani retorted, "That's fine with me." But by evening, things were different. Mehera's heart was so clear and childlike, Mani explained. She gave me a special cake of soap as a peace offering. She knew I liked the fragrance. On another occasion in Baba's room, Mehera called Mani and outlined in great detail how to arrange the flowers. "One day you'll have to do this," she said. "Pay attention. You will have to do this particular job when I'm gone." Mani helped her in the mornings when Mehera put flowers on each picture and on the bed. It was, as I call it, a little romance between the flowers and Mehera, Mani reflected. Each flower had a very special place in Baba's room. Mehera called Mani into Baba's room another day and told her, "When my time comes, see that I am in Baba's room before you carry me out. See that only Goher and you handle my body after I go to Baba while making the arrangements for the funeral." As usual, Mehera, Mani, Meru, and Goher left for Pune in April 1989 during the Indian summer. Our last time with Mehera in Pune was so special, Meru recalled. They stayed at the Puna Club, watched videos, and did some shopping. It would be their last private moments with Mehera. They returned to Meherazad after a few days. During Mehera's final days, sitting on her veranda, she would wave to Mani as Mani left for the office. The last time Mehera came out on the porch, she folded her hands to Mani in a namaste, like a goodbye, something she had never done before. I'll just read the sidebar while it's still visible. Nadja had passed away in 1982, and Rano thank you, in 1986. I realize now that there was a hairline stroke or a minor stroke, Mani commented. When Mehera folded her hands and said Jai Baba to me, she smiled very sweetly. I thought that I had never quite seen her smile like that. It was as if Baba, the master sculptor, had just done only that much, so that her smile became even more charming. Just the slightest bit more, and it would have been a disfigurement. When I realized this, my heart welled up with gratitude, as Mehera would have hated that to have her face disfigured in any way. And the sidebar says, Mehera's injuries in the 52 accident had also been to the head. Those injuries, along with her brain tumor now, perhaps were symbolic of the destruction of the mind. See Appendix E for Mani's account of Mehera's final days. In mid-May 1989, Mehera was diagnosed as suffering with a brain tumor. The doctors said that at the very least, she would have terrible headaches. They thought she should be comatose with such a large tumor in the brain. But amazingly, she had no symptoms. She only complained once that she felt a tightness in the head, nothing like the splitting headaches that Mani and Goher sometimes had. It was apparent to all that Baba was veiling Mehera from much of the physical suffering. Goher prayed, imploring Baba, quote, to give the suffering to us, not to make Mehera suffer. But no, Goher clarified, Baba compressed what she had to go through so that it went very quickly. It happened so quickly. And just as in 1952, when what Mehera remembered of the accident was not what actually took place, Baba veiled her from much of the physical suffering at the end. She was aware and resisted the nasal tube, but then she would drift off and be unconscious of it. Baba was drawing her to him. So I had it out with Baba, Goher continued. Mehera has suffered so often for so many who came and requested her to alleviate the suffering of others.
Did you read this sidebar?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Does somebody else want to take over? Thank you, Eugene.
My pleasure.
How about Marvin?
Yeah, let me read that last sentence again, please. So I had it out with Baba, Goher continued. Mehera had prayed so often for so many who came and requested her to alleviate the suffering of others. And now, my one request, you can't grant? What more is there for Mehera to go through? And Mehera, when praying right on the spot, for those who had asked her, would always say, if it is your will, Baba. Let me read that sidebar. Once when Erich had to be transferred to the hospital, Goher herself had prayed to Baba for Erich, but then added, Baba, who loves your own children more than you? You know what is best. Who can love anyone more than you? Baba, in his compassion for Mehera, did not let her suffer long, Meru also observed. Mehera then became much gentler, sweeter, as if the day-to-day responsibilities had been lifted from her. She needed to sleep a lot, as though her body was trying to make up in that short time for all the years of sleep she had not allowed herself. She seemed to forget names of people, not just the short-term pilgrims, but people she had known well, who had come often. And we saw she had a problem in trying to convey properly in speech what she meant. Quote, to be with her in close proximity, to be able to watch over her with greater attention, was Baba's gift to Mani, Goher, and myself. And when she slept for a while in the morning or afternoon, we could see how her face seemed to relax completely, and all the lines of strain melt away. Mehera was so ready to say the arti morning and evening, and before any words of his prayer, which she would unfalteringly recite, Baba's name would come to her lips. In fact, at other times too, Baba's name would slip out before she said what she had intended to. His name was imprinted on her heart. Baba was with her. Baba was in her. Baba was her life. End quote. As Mehera mentioned at the end, Mehera forgot certain words, and when they telephoned America, she confused Margaret with Elizabeth. But she never forgot Baba's prayers and arti. Toward the end, she held up her arm over her eyes, not to take any more food. She looked so sweet, like a child, Mani said. 2 or 3 times when she was looking away, she reminded me of Babajan. She would sleep all day long if we let her. As the days passed and Mehera did suffer physically, it became too much for Mani as well. Mehera was such a private person, so self-contained about her person, her body, that it hurt us very much to see her have to go through some of the things during this last illness. I had it out with Baba. What is this? Why are you making her go through all this? I had in my mind that this is what our life would be like now at Marizad. We would rearrange the schedule, look after Mehera. It would go on. People would come to greet her, but it was not to be. Mehera's condition grew worse. The Pilgrim Center was closed for the season, and there were no visitors. From our point of view also, the timing was perfect, Mani continued. If it had been during the season, it would have been different. Had it been 15 days before, it would have been different. Had it been after, it would have been different. Baba's given us just enough time, not to recover so much as to recollect and do everything. How he manages and controls everything. Meru. On the last Tuesday evening, 18 May, when I woke Mehera for Arti, to which she always responded, no matter how deep her slumber, she tried to rise, but was unable to sit up. She had gone closer than ever to Baba, and after that evening, she remained unconscious to the world, with her eyes closed until the last.
Thank you, Marvin. Uh, Ralph, would you like to read?
Just hold 2 seconds, please. My hands are
Okay.
wet. Okay,
Uh,
where I gotta hold on. I'm on my phone. I gotta find the text.
can you see the
I'm
screen?
seeing a blank page. Okay, let me go. Ooh, 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 ooh. Okay, and after that evening, remain unconscious to the world. Her clothes.
You're breaking up, Ralph.
Am I? Well, you
Yeah.
better find another reader.
Okay, I'll read. By
Okay. Yeah, and
19
let's see if I can relocate. Let me see how many bars I have.
I can
I don't
read.
know. I can't see it.
By 19th
Okay.
day, Erich had
But
given up hope. Bao Tu commented that day, "This is the final tearing of the curtain of duality." Mani also felt the end was near. Every morning she touched some flowers she had preserved, which had been on Baba's body in the tomb, and she reminded herself, "These are the flowers I will place on Mara's body when the time comes." Mani described Mara's final moments on earth. Dr. Arvind Chopra had told me to lift the eyelids with my finger to see the reaction, and I had done it with with my pinky. He said to get her to open her eyes so she would not sink into a coma. They were seeing eyes, not in a coma, but then I let go and the eyelids shut immediately, the lids not straight up but down. Saturday morning, May 20th, was Buddha's birthday. It was also the day Nadja had passed away 7 years before. That morning, we had no idea that Mara would drop her body. Arvind and Jehangu Sakudwala had just come. In the night, Heather had thought Mara stopped breathing, but the doctor said it happens sometimes. That morning, I noticed Dr. Meher Desai, Mansari's niece, was looking serious and asked what was the matter. She said Mara's pulse was way up and her blood pressure was falling. I asked what this meant and remembered that the same thing had happened when Rano died. Dr. Meher said she was sinking, and we had agreed amongst ourselves to call out Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. Oh, Avatar Meher Baba, just Avatar Meher Baba. 7 times if things look serious, and we did. I held a photo of Baba Mara keeps on her dresser, and the photo Mara always takes with her to Pune. The photo we put in on her chest as a CAT scan was done in Pune. I held the photo of Mara's forehead in front of her, trying to get her to open her eyes. "Look, Mara, Baba is here. Open your eyes, Mara, darling. See how beautiful Baba looks? See the garland we placed on Baba's photo?" All of a sudden, Mara's eyes opened wide. I thought, my God, I told her to open her eyes and she did it. But no, she was looking at me, but she was seeing Baba. There is no doubt about it. The joy in her eyes, the eyes were open, as if a door had been thrown open, as if the heavens within her eyes had opened. There was white completely all around the eyes, with just a touch of moisture at the outer corners of both eyes. She held them open for about 40 seconds and then slowly closed her lids as if a beautiful curtain was falling. This time the eyelids were not flabby and out of alignment, but perfectly shut. She took a breath and her head went down as if she were bowing to Baba, or like a queen bidding farewell to her court. Again her head went back and she bowed. It was the most beautiful experience. She died at 9:43 a.m. And the expression on her face, a slight smile. And the expression on her face, a slight smile. Gohar and I were tempted to take a photo. She looked so beautiful, as if Baba had wiped his hands over her face, removing all the wrinkles, the furrowed brow, all the suffering of the past few weeks. Her face reminded me of two things: the Madonna, the Virgin Mary. How beautiful Mara looked when I saw her at Nasik when she was 22. She was 12 and she was 23. She looked so beautiful. We burned candles for 4 days, and as Baba said, that for 4 days the soul has an attachment, a link with the environment. I'm going to read the sidebar. Mara was taken to Medineva on Jangali Maharaj Road for tests. A female technician was called as it was a Sunday. The male X-ray technician was told not to touch Mara. He politely asked whether if he put the plate in the machine to take the chest X-ray to see whether there was tuberculosis, which there was not. And then the other sidebar. Baidul's daughter Sarwar's watch read 9:42, but it was a minute slow according to BBC Radio. Okay. Eugene, you want to go again?
One lover remarked that Mara looked as she had before Baba dropped his body. Her face was once again free of her quote unquote great grief. Here is Meru's description of Mara's passing. On Saturday morning, when Goher said the end was near, we all gathered around Mara, holding Baba's photo before her, with Mani leading the chant of Baba's name. The men Mandali were also called into the room and joined in the singing. I was fighting inside with Baba to let her remain, but I felt him not giving way. Suddenly, after all those days, Mara opened her eyes. Mani and I held the photo for her to see, but Mara's gaze was so strong and direct, beyond anything in the room, beyond our vision. Something she was seeing, something so beautiful, so powerful, which none of us could see, held her gaze. For those few seconds that seemed like eternity, she looked on with unwavering gaze and then shut her eyes. There was no weakness here, but the strength of the soul reaching the end of its journey, seeing the beloved in all his glory. When she finally went to Baba, that night was Buddha's Purnima, the full moon, the day of Buddha's birth, the day of the full moon of Buddha's enlightenment, and the day of his dropping of his human form. And this too was Mara's day of attainment, her day of reunion with her beloved. And the sidebar says, Love Street Lamppost, April, June 1999, page 28. I guess that's attributing the.
Yeah.
A year earlier, on 18 May 1988, when Mani was at the trust office, it came to her what to write for Mara when she dropped her body. 2 days later, she handed the paper to Erich and said, keep this, don't tell anyone, because when the time comes, I will not be able to think. I will be with Mara. Erich noted down the date, 20 May. Mara dropped her body the following year to the day, and Mani used the text almost word for word. changing only a few things in a telegram sent to Baba lovers across the world. Beloved Avatar Meher Baba has taken Mehera, his beloved, unto himself on 20 May 1989. While Mehera's body is being buried next to the Samadhi on Mehrabad Hill, as specified by Baba, the light of Mehera's supreme love for her beloved will forever illumine the earth in the hearts of his lovers everywhere. It was the middle of summer in India. Mehera's body was kept in her bedroom on the 20th, with the fans on and an electric cooler blowing. Blocks of ice were placed nearby and the door firmly shut to keep in the cool air. Local lovers came during the day for darshan. In the evening, at about 6:15, according to her wishes, her body was carried in a stretcher to Baba's room, where the prayers and arti were recited. Mehera's body was placed on sheets on the floor in front of Baba's bed, as she had instructed. Then it was brought through the outside door, the door through which Baba's body was also carried, and into Mandali Hall. The stretcher was placed on 4 blocks of wood in front of Baba's chair. Ice was placed around it. A plastic sheet was kept underneath. Fans were hooked up and the cooler brought inside the hall. An all-night vigil of songs and reminiscences ensued. Mani suggested Swani, the first song Mehera had taught Baba. And Jeff Wolverton and Heather Nadell sang it. So they sang Swani. Also Mehera's song, but not Begin the Begin, which Mani said Mehera did not care for much. An atmosphere of joy rather than sorrow pervaded Mandali Hall that night. It was a palpable feeling of happiness for Mehera, who was free, finally to rejoin and remain with her beloved ever after. For some, parentheses, the author included, close parentheses, the feeling of joy emanated, they said, because they actually felt Baba's physical presence in the hall that night. At one point, Mani brought the rose petals that had been on Baba's body inside the crypt in 1969, which she had preserved for 20 years. These she placed under Mehera's blouse, over her heart. Janet Judson, another Western resident who had been assisting at Mehrazad, was beside Mani. Quote, I was watching Mehera's face, and when Mani placed the rose there, a wave of joy rippled over Mehera's already radiant face. Mani spoke about Mehera's final days, remarking regrettably that, quote, even at the end, so many things had to be given up. Medical things she would never have liked were done to her. That too, Mehera had to go through. Mani noted also how much, quote, how much Baba loves each of us, that he left his most precious, cherished gift for you all for 20 years to share, to have. Now it is her turn to be where she wants to be. For me, I know she's happy. Where else would you want to be but with Baba? Not that we ask or want, whatever is his wish, but then how can we grudge her that joy supreme? But my attachment was linked very much with Mehera right from the start. That's what I miss. Continuing, Act 3 has begun, Mani observed. Act 1 was our lives with Baba. Act 2 was the time after Baba dropped his body. Now Act 3 has begun. Meru stated later, in dear Mara's passing, we are happy for her, knowing that she has returned to the loving arms of her beloved, where she had so longed to go these many years. Yet, so beautifully, she had fulfilled the role her beloved had asked of her. But we miss her every moment of the day. How deeply her heart longed for that day of reunion. Yet 20 long years went by that she continued to live with us, smiling through the pain. Bravely, she faced this life, striving ever to please her beloved in every way she could. Meru mentioned how far we, in which she included herself, have to go to become like Mera. For example, Meru said, every morning, Meru's first thought upon waking is of what she has to do that day, of what she has to, of whom she has to speak with, and so on. Whereas Mara's first thought was always of Baba. Immediately upon waking, Mara's very first thoughts were of him. And in brackets, it sounds easy, but try doing it. One thing Mara loved was to see the full moon. She delighted in trying to find Baba's face in the moon. She always called Mani outside to see it, just when Mani was relaxing with a book on the sofa. The last thing Mani wanted was to get up, but she would go and look at the moon with Mara. So Mara would have been quite pleased that there was a full moon on the night of 20 May with rings around it. We all saw it rising as if it were peeking into Mondley Hall, where Mara's body lay in state. Marvin.
Yes, yes, Marvin. Thanks.
Mara's body was taken out of Mondley Hall from the back door at 6 a.m. and placed in the Hupo, a trust van. It was driven to Meherabad with other cars following. At Meherabad, the coffin was placed on the Sabha Mandap for people to have darshan. Mara's casket was polished wood with thin molding on the bottom and 4 silver-colored plated metal handles on the sides. A blue silkish type material lined the inside, which was padded. Sidebar, the Sabha Mandap is a covered stone platform built opposite Meher Baba's tomb after he dropped his body. Mehera was dressed in a blouse and skirt of salmon pinkish hue. The blouse was a paint-like print of small flowers of different colors. A pink scarf was wrapped around her head, another white cloth inside to support her jaw. Her hands were folded across her stomach and tied. Across her throat were 3 roses. A single rose was on her feet, and a garland of flowers, white jasmine with yellow marigolds accenting, draped across her. Falu Mistry had made another garland with roses from Merazad, and this too was placed on her. At Meherabad, lovers offered individual flowers inside the casket as they said their final farewell. Mehera was buried wearing 2 gold rings, which Baba had told her never to remove. During her last illness, when her fingers had swollen with the IV, the rings were removed and tied to her wrist. When the swelling went down, they were put back on. The ring given by Upasni Maharaj was of pliable gold and had worn down so much that before Mehera died, Gohar had taken the ring to the bazaar to have it strengthened. Sidebar, Mira's gold bangles had been cut off when her wrist swelled during the IV drip, and these were not buried with her. After everyone had placed a rose inside the coffin, Mira was taken inside Baba's tomb and placed head first in front of his crypt. Mehru offered a flower from Mira to Baba and placed it on the samadhi. After the prayers were said and the arti sung, Mira's body was taken and placed on a bench to the right of the tomb. Then the casket was shifted to the front of her grave. After all had put jalis, flower curtains, on it, the lid of the casket was closed. Supported by a blue rope, it was lowered inside the grave. Mani had kept 2 bags of earth that had been under Meher Baba's feet during the week after he dropped his body. One she always knew was for Mera. As she related, for 20 years it had been in her room, and she brought it to Mehrabad now. A bit of this earth she sprinkled at the side of Mera's body inside the coffin. The rest she distributed for people to toss over the coffin once it was lowered into the ground. Mera looked so radiant when she dropped her body that Gohar had suggested to Mani that they take a photograph of her, at least of her face, of her head only. Nevertheless, Mani said no. It was Mera's wish not to be photographed after she passed away. Mani sent word that absolutely no video recorders or cameras were to be used, as Mera was adamant that no photo be taken of her body. Why do they want to remember us like that? Mera often asked. She was not happy with Don Stevens for arranging a film of Baba to be taken in the crypt in 1969. Scroll. And she was annoyed with the author for taking photo at Padres and Rano's funerals. The author had mentioned taking a video to Erich, and he thought it a good idea. Bao said also, yes, there should be a record of Mera's burial.
Okay, thank you. Ralph, you want to try again?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
How's it going? A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Sounds good.
Funerals, taking a video of Eric's, and he thought it a good idea. Bao said also, yes, there should be a record of Mara's burial. It was not to be. Mani called the author privately at Marazad, and she got a picture in the way here, privately at Marazad, and said that she had promised Mara that she would make sure that no photographs were taken. The author argued that since Mara was now merged in Baba, she would not mind. Mani explained that she simply had to request this, as she had promised Mara. I then understood and said that I would respect her wish to fulfill her promise to Mara. Who is that, David? Is that the author?
Yes.
I see. I had brought my video camera and still camera to Marazad, and I took them with me to Mehrabad for the funeral. At Mehrabad, Mani on her own said that when the flower jollies were being placed on Mara's grave, after it is filled with earth, I could shoot some videos and take some photos, which I did. It was 9:45 a.m. when the final har, which is a garland, was placed on Mara's grave at Mehrabad on 21 May. exactly 24 hours since Mehera had dropped her body. After placing a garland on Mehera's samadhi 9 days later, Mani said poetically, "The fragrance is not in the rose, Mehera, but of your love." On the first anniversary of Mehera's passing, after taking darshan at her samadhi, Mani prayed, "Mehera, help us to love Baba as he should be loved. Help us to please him as he should be pleased."
Why don't we read the first sidebar, please?
Some are confused about the purpose of bowing down at Mehera's tomb. Mani once humorously explained why she did so. After bowing down, Mani rose and asked a young woman standing nearby, "Do you know why we bow down at Mehera's tomb? We do it so that some of her love for Baba will rub off on us."
Okay.
All right. Where are we now? Oh, at that heart, at that, okay. Shall I read the sidebar? Go ahead with this.
I don't know.
Not yet.
Okay. Because of Mehera's serious condition in May of 1989, Bao had been debating whether to postpone his scheduled trip to Australia.
Now you can read this sidebar.
There, like Adi Sr., Bao had wished Mehera farewell before proceeding on prior speaking tours to the West, asking if she had any message to convey. "Give Baba's love to all his lovers there," was Mehera's inevitable response. Due to years of conditioning, because of Baba's previous injunction against the Mandali, seeing Mehera, Bao admitted that he always felt scared and nervous to stand before Mehera. Even where was
Even then.
it? Felt scared, nervous to stand before Mehera, even then.
So you were, let's see.
I think a little up. Yeah.
Yeah.
In
Here
Australia. In Australia, right.
Yeah.
you see where you were
Excuse me.
on
That's true.
20 May.
Got another. Okay. On May 20th, he had gone to Baba's tomb in the morning and decided, who's we? Adi?
No, bow.
No, Adi's gone.
Bow.
Bao. Oh, Bao. Okay. He had gone to Baba's tomb in the morning and decided firmly not to postpone the trip. As soon as he returned to the trust office, the phone call came from Mehera that Mehera had gone to Baba. In Australia, Bao spoke of Mehera. Mehera dropped her body on Buddha Jayanti, Buddha's birthday, and also the day of his realization. Mehera became one with the beloved the same day. It is not a day of sorrow, but it is a day of great joy that she became one with the beloved. Though we miss her, still it is good for all that she has become one with the beloved. When one becomes one with the beloved, no one knows what benefit the world derives out of it. There is nothing in Mara's life except the beloved. She was the only perfect example of dedication. She was not living for herself. She was living for the beloved. Not a single thought of self. What she was passing through, no one knew. She played a very difficult role, caring only for Baba's orders and pleasure. My phone took off on its own little trip, sidebar trip here. I got to get the image back.
Oh, you want me to pick up?
Okay, I'm back. Yeah. Oh, well, okay. There was nothing in Mara's life except the beloved. What she was not living for herself. She was living for the beloved. Not a single thought of self. What she was passing through, no one knew. She played a very difficult role, caring only for Baba's orders and pleasure. When she shed tears, those tears were immediately valuable, since she was weeping for the whole creation. Such tears, of course, we cannot have. It requires the dedication of many lifetimes. The tears she shed were quite a different sort. Those tears touched the hearts of people, particularly his lovers. Mara was the beloved of the beloved. She was the queen. The queen is not physically present now, but her palace is there, and it is lit with her love. People of many generations afterwards will remember her love. They will remember her tears. They will remember her dedication.
Okay, thank you. Um, I don't know if
Thank
we
you.
I don't know if we should go on or stop here. What do you think?
Yeah, it's almost 2:58. It's probably a good time to stop at the top of the page here.
Yeah, so we have gotten to 581.